Hello and welcome to Draft Thunder. I'm Andrew.
And I'm
And
Ben, and I
Ben's.
promise you that John Claude is here with me.
Yes, he is. I really hope so, at least. So, if you'll notice, we are here looking at the lineup on DraftKings and what we have on FanDuel, and that is because we are not with each other right now. I'm currently at the beach, and Ben is at home at his apartment. He did not get the invite. I'm very sorry, Ben.
I kind of did get the invite, but it's fine.
Eh, well, someone have to disagree. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we're here to cover preseason week 1. This is after the Hall of Fame game. We had pretty good results from that. I would say we're happy with what we got. A lot of good responses from people on Twitter. We know there was at least one guy out there who won $100 profit, which is very nice. We profited a pretty decent amount, and I think it was successful and a good starting point for the season.
Yeah, I would agree. Ready to jump into week 1 preseason.
Yep. So I guess let's just jump right into it. So let's talk about our favorite quarterbacks and try and give two or three that you like this week.
All right, so starting it off with, I'm going to go with Joe Webb the third. So he's on Houston now. I know he's
Oh my God.
even if he does play, I believe he'll be
Ben,
limited.
we had a little technical difficulties there,
Oh, lovely.
but that was actually kind of funny. So Joe Webb the third. Start about talking to him
Joe.
again.
Yeah, yeah. AJ McCarron got hurt today. He's currently number 2 for Houston. Hurt his hand, didn't come back to practice. So even if he does play on Thursday night, which is definitely in question at this point, I believe that he will be limited, and they won't want to hurt him further as he is sort of that bona fide backup to Deshaun Watson. And I don't expect to see Deshaun Watson for too long in this game. So that's going to leave 3.5 quarters for Joe Webb to play. For volume purposes, I think that's fine. I mean, he did start a playoff game, so that means a little bit of something, I guess. I mean, he didn't do too hot, but I think he'll be fine for our purposes. He's my number 1 quarterback if AJ McCarron sits, and I'll still be using him even if AJ does suit up.
Yeah, I definitely like that play too. Me and Ben talked about a few of these plays before the podcast started because of our technical difficulties. We don't normally do that. But anyway, he said Joe Webb, and I'm like, I like Joe Webb as a player. He'd be a great option, but I thought there was too much going on with McCarron. But now with McCarron out, he seems like an elite. I would say an elite option this week, which is kind of crazy to say for Joe Webb, but he really does
Yeah,
offer that capability of possibly getting his rushing yards too, which we definitely look for.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I will give one of my plays. One play that we meet in the middle with is actually I'll wait on that for you because I know you're high on Trace McSorley, but I will start with Indianapolis quarterback in Phil Walker. So if you're looking here at the depth chart, we see Andrew Luck is questionable. That means he already has some kind of injury. I do not expect to see him at all during this game. I expect them
He
to.
hasn't practiced in like 10 days.
Yes, they're going to protect him as much as possible. They know they need him throughout this whole season. He is the core of their team. So we also see that Chad Kelly's out. That is new news. New news. um, so with him being out, that leaves only two quarterbacks: Jacoby Brissett and Phil Walker. I do not know too much about Phil Walker, honestly. This is more of a volume play. We go through each and every team and see how many options there are, see if we can get the most time out of a player. And we can definitely see here that with only two options, they're going to keep Jacoby Brissett out of this game for the most part. I expect to see Jacoby in like the first quarter. I don't even expect him going to the second quarter. But we are guaranteed a half from Phil Walker. I would say 3 quarters, and then possibly even he comes in the first quarter because I know they want Jacoby to be the backup to Andrew Luck. They have seen what he has, and I think that they will be somebody who they want to use in the second and third preseason game to see more out of him. Not this game. This is the Phil Walker game. I think that he can be a great play with that Colts offense.
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely a volume play there. They know Jacoby has to be healthy if just in case Andrew gets hurt because they're not even talking about his injury, but he's just sitting out of every practice. So it's kind of eerily similar to his injury back a couple years ago when he ended up missing the whole season. Um, so yeah, Andrew kind of alluded to it. My second quarterback play is Trace McSorley. So rookie out of Penn State, now with the Ravens. Similar here to some of the plays we've talked about. sort of those missing quarterbacks. RG3 went down with that injury last week. He's definitely out for this game. He's going to be out for a few more weeks. The Ravens just picked up Joe Callahan. He's just a camp body. He's not. The Ravens hardly ever carry three quarterbacks. They're definitely not carrying four. Lamar's definitely not going to see too much action here. I mean, they're going to want to test out some of the things they've done with the passing game, let him see the field. So he might stretch out to the first quarter, but I really do think Trace will be the rest of the game. Maybe Callahan just mops it up at the end, but they do want to see what Trace has at quarterback. I know they've talked about using him on special teams and as some gadget plays, but he's actually gotten some good reviews throughout training camp and seemed to be throwing the ball pretty well. So having him for 2.5, 3 quarters, maybe plus, would be a really nice little game, and he has a little bit of rushing upside himself. So I think that's a good play there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He is a guy who has proven himself in college, and I think he'll be a good fit on the Ravens as backup. So my second and last play for me, because I'm kind of going to stick to a very limited quarterback roster this week with my lineups, but I am going. You're going to hate this. I'm going with Matt Schaub, who looked absolutely horrendous. Oh my gosh, he looked bad. But we have to talk about him here. Matt Ryan, same situation as last week in the Hall of Fame game. He is not going to play. What? I don't see him going a quarter, right?
I mean, he might go a quarter just to get some more rhythm down.
That'd be it. Because you know what the Falcons are thinking? They're like, all right, if Matt Ryan goes down, who do we have? Matt Schaub.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we have Matt Schaub.
And as bad as I'm talking about him, it's another volume play here. Preseason is about volume. It's about getting those points that are, I guess, guaranteed with him. I know, what did he get? Do we know what he got in the Hall of Fame game?
I have no idea. But we do know our darling Kurt Benkert is on IR, unfortunately.
Oh, he did so well for us.
Yeah.
God. But yeah, Matt Schaub's just a pretty decent play here because you know he's going to get 3 quarters probably out of this game. Who knows, he might play the whole game. I doubt it, but this would be a play unless for some reason, you know, I was thinking if they pick some guy up earlier in the week, but I think it's too late for that now, all said and done. I think that he's
they did add somebody.
Oh, well, here we go. All right.
He's not on, or he's not on the DraftKings player pool, but he's on the depth chart.
Okay. Well, I still believe.
I stand by Schaub.
Yeah.
I mean, again, another camp body, but they're not expecting him to make the team.
Yeah, and he'll just be a volume play here. Safe lineup, safe in the lineup, but he should be able to possibly get you 2 touchdowns if he plays well. He might care a little bit more about this game because, like we were saying, he was pretty upset that he'd be in the Hall of Fame game at all, and that's why we think that he was playing terribly because he really just didn't want to be there with all the rookies who were trying to make the team.
He was really mad when he had to come back in when Benkert got hurt.
He really was. Yeah. So go ahead and give your last quarterback play.
Yeah, these are going to be more GPP. I'm just going to give you 2. One is going to be a pretty gross name, so I'm sorry for that. But I'm looking at Josh Rosen, who I think will. I know that Fitzpatrick kind of has a hold on that number 1 quarterback job in Miami, and that looks like that he's going to start on Thursday. But they kind of, I mean, everyone knows what Fitzpatrick does. He comes out, he slings the ball around, he has a couple of good games. But they really need to see Rosen and see how he fits in this offense. So even if Fitzpatrick starts, I expect them to treat him like the starter. So he's not going to see a ton of time, and they're just going to let Rosen go loose, I think. This is totally unconfirmed. It's just the way I feel like they need to see Rosen work with them, and they need to see what they have to see if he could even start for them this year. So that's one of them, and the other one I'll mix in a few is Geno Smith. I know it's disgusting, but I looked at some history with Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson only plays 1 drive for the first preseason game. He throws about 4 passes and leaves the game. That just leaves Geno Smith and Paxton Lynch. Geno's been the number 2 guy all camp. In their mock game, he went for 4 drives. Paxton only went for 3. So I see Geno going for 2 quarters plus, and then Paxton with mop-up duty, and Geno with a little bit of a rushing upside. Hopefully he would rush in the end zone or something. More of a GPP play instead of cash. Not quite as safe, but could provide some upside.
Yeah, I definitely like this place for GPPs. Obviously, you're not guaranteed the volume like with our plays we've said, but if they decide to have a great game, they could be on top of leaderboards and in the best lineup possible. Okay,
Yeah.
so those are the quarterbacks that we have. Now let's move on to running backs. I am going to start in Green Bay, actually. So there's this guy named Dexter Williams, and I can't remember exactly. I think he was a 6th-round draft pick by them. It's either 3rd or 6th. Sorry about being wrong. But if you're looking here at the depth chart, we got Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, both very hurt. Very hurt's a stretch. They're hurt, and they were also guaranteed starts in for the Packers. So they weren't probably going to play in this game at all anyway. Then we got Trey Carson, who was also possibly going to be fighting for that 3rd-string running back spot. He is also hurt. We're going to be seeing a lot of Dexter Williams because they want him to prove what he's got. Corey Grant, you also see, is questionable. He was also somebody who was in the running. So we got Vitale, I'm not sure, Danny Vitale, and Malcolm Johnson. So they're both fullbacks in the roster. That leaves us with Darren Hall and Dexter Williams. Dexter Williams is the much better player who has been showing out in camp, and they want to see what he has. I think this is his preseason game to prove it, and he should be getting a lot of reps in this game. So he definitely sounds like an intriguing running back play, and I look forward to putting him in a good majority of my lineups.
Yeah, I honestly applaud you. I looked at that Green Bay depth chart and decided to not even touch it because of the mess that it was.
Not so much a mess, is it?
I mean, I just saw a bunch of red letters, and I said I'm not dealing with that. But no, good pick up there. I'm gonna start in Carolina, with Elijah Holyfield. I was really making sure I didn't say Evander. It is Evander's son. So what we're looking at, if you have that depth chart up, I mean, Christian McCaffrey, you know he's not going to play very much. They can not afford to get him hurt. So that running back Scarlett there is already ruled out for Thursday. They hope to have him back for week 2. Cameron Artis-Payne they've had for, it feels like, about 100 years at this point. So
I feel bad for
that guy. He'll get a couple carries early on, 6 to 8, I would imagine. But then you're just down to Holyfield and Bonifant. I mean, Holyfield didn't have an illustrious career in college. He kind of got swallowed up by the SEC until his senior year, where he rushed for over 1,000 yards. And then he didn't test very well at the combine. So there's a lot of things going against him. But again, we're looking at volume here, and a guy that, I mean, he did end up proving himself in his senior year, so he, has some skill. Looks to be doing pretty decent in camp. Better player than Bonifant overall. Bonifant was a converted quarterback to a converted wide receiver to a converted running back. So he has no idea what position he's playing. He went to Louisville, but he kept getting booted. Like Lamar took his job at quarterback, then he got kicked out of wide receiver. Now he's trying to be a running back. I don't see it happening. So Holyfield's kind of the play there as one of the only running backs that I see viable.
I don't even know who the Bonifant guy is, but just from you talking about him right there, I see him as being a guy who they pick up because he's athletic, and they probably want to put him on special teams, as Langley was.
Yeah, they said he needs to make special teams.
So Holyfield sounds like a great play. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
I think those are 2 pretty great starts to these lineups. Where am I moving next? So, Detroit. Yeah. So, the running back that I have for Detroit is Ty Johnson. So, in Detroit, we have Kerryon Johnson, who has easily shown that he is going to be the starter. Was he rookie last year? I think he was, correct?
No, second
year.
He might have been third year.
I don't know. No matter what, he's definitely proved himself as a starter. That's a guarantee. C.J. Anderson is somebody who they picked up in the offseason. They're going to also be playing him a lot, giving him a key role in the offense. I do not expect him to be playing in this game. Zach Zenner is somebody who's been on this team for a while. He might see some reps. But I think they want to see a lot out of the new guy, Ty Johnson, who I believe is a rookie. He might be a second-year player, but I think I got him mixed up with Dexter. So one of them is third, one of them is a 6th-round pick. Either way, they're both very explosive players, showing a lot out at camp. And the only guy besides him that I see on this depth chart is Mark Thompson, who is a guy that the Ravens had last year, who honestly I did like. He kind of showed some potential, but I think that they're going to want to see more out of Ty Johnson here. And Nick Bowden is questionable, and I don't really questionable injuries going into Thursday's games usually means they're going to be held out or at least be very limited. So, and Nick Bowden didn't have much to show anyway. Ty Johnson has been the leading guy, and I think that he is a good play from this running back chart.
So, to give a little bit more insight into him,
Okay.
he was a 6th-round pick. He went to University of Maryland. Incredibly athletic, incredibly fast. Just a really good all-around athlete. Very shifty through the hole. He's undersized. We'll see how his game translates to the NFL. He is an amazing kick returner. So we'll see how it translates to running. I mean, he was a very good running back for Maryland for his whole career. So we'll see how it translates here. But yeah, for a preseason game for sure, I'm with that. I loved watching him play.
And I think that might be it for me for running backs. Do you have anyone else?
Yeah, I have a few.
Okay.
I'll go through them kind of quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
One, Brian Hill. I'm going to go back to here.
To the well.
Back to the well. I mean, if you watched that game last week, he was the best running back on the field. And if you stuck through that game, good on you. But he played like all 4 quarters. He just kept coming back in. I was very surprised to keep seeing him. But he was definitely the best running back on the field. If they're being serious and saying that the number 2 running back job is up for grabs, then I would expect to see him do the same thing. Play through the whole game. They're going to mix and match those guys with him and Ito and Olisan and Barner. But Barner didn't look like anything. Olisan didn't do much. Ito looked decent. And Devontae Freeman will be added in here a little bit for some carries. But even in last week's game, the last guy on that depth chart, Tony Brooks-James, really didn't even factor in, and that was in the Hall of Fame game. So don't expect to see him here. So this is just him being the best running back that I saw on that field, and him trying to claim that number 2 running back spot to get a foothold on it.
Yep. I think Olsen looks terrible, but good. Keep going.
Yeah, I agree. Next, I'm going to go to Washington.
Okay.
I'm gonna go for Sean Wilson. So here you're going to see Washington said they don't know if they're going to play Geis or not in the preseason. So I really don't expect to see him Thursday, if maybe for 3 carries. Peterson, very similar. I mean, what do they need to see out of Adrian Peterson? Bryce Love is out, the guy that they drafted. Chris Thompson is who he is. He's a 3rd down back. They never really wanted him to be a between the tackles runner. He was forced into that role a few times, but they really don't want him to be that, so they know that. So now you're getting down to Samaje Perine, another guy who they've had for a while. So running back seems like sort of a spot of wealth here for the Redskins, sort of locked up. But everything I've been reading says that this guy, Sean Wilson, is really pushing to make this team. As one beat writer kind of wrote, he said, I think yesterday or the day before was the first day he saw him, and he just said how much he's heard about Sean Wilson and how undersold he still was. He said he's extremely fast, extremely shifty, and that's apparently making a huge impact at Redskins training camp. So I think they'll reward him and giving him a lot of run here on Thursday night when they know what they kind of have in these other guys. So I think he could be a strong play. Yeah,
that definitely sounds good to me too. Do you have one more that you want to throw in? Just no explanation, or not much.
Yeah, Devin Singletary, another rookie. He was out of FAU. He's on Buffalo. Just pulling up their depth chart to get it right here.
Frank Gore.
Yeah, McCoy and Gore and Yeldon. They're all obviously veterans. They don't need a lot of work in this first preseason game. They've also had Marcus Murphy for a while. Devin Singletary is another guy that's been getting awesome reviews. He was really good at FAU for Lane Kiffin. Just another one of those running backs that's run really, really hard, and he's pretty quick and can get through the hole. I've been reading he's even been doing some goal line work with the ones. So a guy that I expect to see early and then often throughout the game to really prove himself. And they need to see, if they're really serious about cutting McCoy, even though I know McCoy has been told that he's the guy apparently. But if they're serious about going forward and getting some young running backs in there, I think they need to see what he can do. And then the last one I'll just throw in is Jeremy McNichols. I don't know a ton about his talent per se. I mean, I know he's been getting, again, really good reports. It's just another one of those things. Derrick Henry and Deion Lewis, they don't need to see much from them. And then you're just left with 4 running backs. McNichols is the one that the beat writers and everyone's been kind of talking up around Tennessee's camp So he could be an interesting GPP mix.
Yeah, I like both those plays too. Um, so we're gonna have to kind of speed through wide receivers, tight ends, and defense a little more because guess what? My computer is not doing too hot. Um, it's just the battery's gotten kind of low. But anyway, something that I want to highlight about this whole preseason week one on both DraftKings and FanDuel, you're making a lineup with the flex spot. Honestly, I'm thinking the running backs are going to be the safer option for those flex spots and even the higher upside. With these running backs that we see are going to be getting a good amount of volume, they could be getting 2 touchdowns, possibly, and some good yards, some catches. And I just think you can guarantee that some running backs are on the field more than most receivers. So definitely something to think about when you're building a lineup.
I tend to agree, especially in cash when you're looking for that guaranteed volume. In GPP, you could go receiver at flex because they could pop and catch a long one and do some things. But there's so many guys at this point that they have to see on the field. You know, you're looking at 12 receivers per depth chart. There's just so many guys they have to cycle through. I mean, you saw it last week. I mean, there's just different guys on the field for every play. So it's hard to guarantee the ball is going to come their way, whereas the running back, you can pencil in for a certain amount of carries based off of their volume projection. So to win a GPP, you might need a wide receiver that catches a deep one. But if you're building a safe and in the cash lineup, I would say running back for sure. They can still win GPPs, no doubt. Wide receivers just might have the better upside, but yeah, like you said, running backs might still have that upside based off of volume.
Yeah, you're just going to have to hit the wide receivers right on the head. Have like the 3 top ones, and that probably will be the winning lineup. But even last week when I was looking, or even at the Hall of Fame game, the winning lineup in the whichever one I did, like the quarter, I did the $4 one or whatever too. But the winning lineup wasn't even the optimal lineup. So I don't think the optimal lineup will be the winning lineup this week either because there's so many plays and so many different things. So let's move on to receivers and try and go through them quick. I don't have too much. I'm going to go through all 3 of mine, and then you can go through all 3 of yours.
Okay.
Starting off, I have Greg Ward Jr., who is a receiver for Philly. He's just a young gun who they have. He's also a conversion player, but I think he was a quarterback before. But he's just also crazy athletic. He has been showing out in camp. They really think he'll be able to make the roster as a wide receiver in Philly. And yeah, so just with the people he's behind, Hollins has been hurt. They're kind of probably going to keep him out a little bit because he's shown what he's got. Gibson also is questionable. There's people like Braxton Miller on the squad who will probably be doing reps with. Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, Nelson Aguilar have all shown their thing. So I think he's good play. Marvin Hall for the Bears. I think that he's also really good. Basically, these 3 receivers that you see, they're people that beat writers for the teams have proven or have talked about a lot, and that's what we're going. That's at least what I'm going off of for the most because it's the people who they're saying to look out for in this preseason game, meaning that they're going to get a lot of reps. So Marvin Hall for the Bears is a really good one for me, and also Keyshawn Johnson for the Cardinals. He is a guy who is seen as the 3rd receiver as of now. Behind on the depth charts, he's right behind Christian Kirk.
I thought Isabella was there.
Yeah, it's both of them.
Okay.
So yeah, it's Isabella and Keyshawn Johnson. But yeah, and
To be fair, I've heard that guy's a beast.
Isabel returned to practice Tuesday, so I don't know.
Yeah.
If they expect high things out of Isabel, also I don't know how much he's gonna play. Because I also heard his name pop up too. But those are just 3 guys to look at, and also maybe sprinkling Cam Sims from the Redskins. I've also heard he's a monster. But yeah, go ahead and lay him off yours.
Okay, so I was gonna say this guy last, but it's just funny you brought up a Philly receiver because I actually have a different one. And this might just be because I watch college. But JJ Arcega-Whiteside is an absolute tank in the red zone. One of those guys that's been running with the 1s a little bit, but will definitely leak into the 2s. So a guy you'll see early. I think he'll be able to catch a touchdown. I think he'll be able to catch 2 if he gets enough time and they get down in the red zone a few times. This guy is massive and really does kind of just grab the ball with both hands and bring it down with him. But again, not necessarily a volume play, more of a shot play. I just wanted to bring him up because I thought it was funny you brought up a different Philly receiver. But I mean, that could totally work out. Like if these receivers see enough time or whatever, and if Philly's offense does really well, like it could just it could really honestly work out in a game like this. But yeah, that was more of a GPP play for me. My top three guys. I'm starting with Jazz Ferguson on Seattle. Awesome name, first of all. This is one of the guys that is pretty low on the depth chart, but Seattle ran a mock game similar to like a red white game or whatever you would see in college, just to kind of act like they were kind of playing. They did it in front of the fans, whatever. But Jazz had the best day out of any receiver out there. He had 4 catches, and 4 of those catches went for 2 touchdowns. That says to me that he's developed chemistry with the backup quarterbacks who will be throwing him the ball. Like I said, Geno, I think, had 4 drives that game, and Paxton Lynch had 3 drives. So, and each only threw about 8 or 9 passes, I believe. So he's developed some good chemistry with both of them, I would say, and I think they'll reward him with some playing time in an actual type game. The next one I'll have is Alonzo Russell for the Giants, a guy that another chemistry play here has apparently been Daniel Jones' favorite target throughout the entire training camp. And I mean, Daniel Jones is going to want to prove the haters wrong and come out and play well. And one of those guys that he's going to look towards is Russell. I mean, he's built up a rep with him, so he's going to want to, if he's getting in trouble, he's going to look to that guy because he trusts him and he knows he's going to come down with the ball. And then the last one is going to be a Baltimore receiver, Antoine Wesley. So not necessarily the best Ravens young wide receiver, as Miles Boykin has kind of taken a hold on that. But Wesley's been making just as many plays in training camp, a guy that Trace has really looked to. And Boykin looks like he's going to make the team from everything that I've read. Boykin's kind of penciled in as the 3rd receiver, maybe even pushing top 2. On the outside, maybe 4th, somewhere in there, but definitely going to make the team. Antoine Wesley's pushing for that 6 wide receiver spots, as the Ravens typically only take 6. So again, another guy listed low on the depth chart, but should see a lot of time here as they try to figure out which receivers are going to be the best for them going forward.
Okay. Yeah, those are definitely some good plays. I like him a lot coming from the Ravens. So those are just some receivers to look out. We'll be throwing some more receivers and also tight ends, which we're about to give whatever we have, but we'll be giving those through Twitter and stuff like that. And we'll definitely have more plays coming on as we get closer into Thursday. So moving on to tight ends, do you have really anybody?
Yeah, I have a few. And tight end is kind of hard. I mean, like we said last week, it's hard to see what kind of tight ends are going to get the action and things like that. But I definitely have a few that I think will do well. So I'm going to start off with Mo Alley-Cox, a guy that's been in the league for a few years now. He has played in some regular season games, but I mean, we know that Indianapolis's tight ends are set. Eric Ebron and Dwayne Allen, both at the top of their tight end depth charts. I mean, that's not really fair to Mo Alley, and he actually does have some decent talent. A couple guys on here that are questionable, so I think he'll play early, and sort of run with those. Well, the sort of ones. I know Andrew Luck's not playing, but run with Brissett and then run with Walker for a little bit, and hopefully he gets in the end zone here. One of those plays, a guy that can go up and get the ball in the red zone. So. Like we said, we've seen him before in the preseason too, and he's done well. So hopefully he continues that. Next guy I'm going to talk about is Will Dissly for Seattle. So another one of those tight ends where you look at their depth chart and it is an absolute mess. So they got 2 guys on IR. Hollister hasn't been suited up for the past 3 days, but he had been drawing some rave reviews. I was excited, actually. I was going to play him. Which made me look into the Seahawks depth chart when I realized that he probably won't be playing on Thursday. Ed Dixon might need surgery. So you're left with Dissly, Vanette, Fant, and Saxton. Fant and Saxton just got added. As you can tell, they're not even priced on DraftKings. And so Will Dissly's listed as the starter. I see that, but he's also coming off of an injury, and I know it says questionable. He's been practicing. From all accounts I can see is they want to get him on the field. He's been extremely explosive, and they've said he just hasn't lost a step at all coming back off of his injury. They've loved what they've seen from him, and they really are excited from all accounts I've seen to get him back on the field. So I think they might look to him for those early downs or that early work with Russell Wilson to sort of get them in sync, get him a few balls, get him back into game flow, and hopefully they force feed him a little bit here, and he might see a little bit of extended time to get him back into the flow of game. If it comes out he's not playing, Nick Vannett honestly does become a great option. But for now, I would say Will Dissly for sure. And then I'm just going to throw in Mike Gesicki. I know I said he'd probably be a pretty good sleeper for regular season and for a season-long DraftKings tight end for Miami. But he still needs to prove his worth to them. Again, a guy I think really does have talent. And the other thing here is he's going to be working with some good quarterbacks. I mean, he'll have Fitzpatrick, and then he'll have Rosen. At least it's guys that we know can throw the ball in the NFL, and get him the ball when he needs it. And again, another just tight ends of where you don't really know who they are. I mean, Clive Wolford is there, but he's questionable. Nick O'Leary's more of a blocking tight end, so a guy that I think they could use more time out of him and get him into the flow and get him working with both quarterbacks, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. We picked Nick O'Leary last year, and he just blocked the whole game.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So I'm going to give one play, and that is for Green Bay. That is Robert Tonyan. So he's another guy who they have shown out in camp. He is behind Jimmy Graham and Mercedes Lewis, and then there's someone named Jace Sternberger who's also hurt. But yeah, Tanyan, I'm sorry if I'm botching it, but he has shown out in camp. They really think that he has a chance to become a guy to run along two tight end sets with Jimmy Graham, become one of the top targets for Aaron Rodgers. He's caught good touchdowns, different passes for him in practice, and he runs with the other quarterbacks a lot. So I really think that he is a good play in this game, just because of his athletic ability and what he has shown so far. So those are the tight ends we have. We will be giving away some special plays throughout the next day or two. So make sure to subscribe on here, like the video, comment or DM us on Twitter. And if you do all those steps, then we will be giving you the special plays of the week. There will be one or two. We haven't really decided yet, but we will definitely send those out. Now, moving on, the last thing we have to do real quick, we got to run through this real quick, I'm sorry, is defense. My thought for defense this week is to go against the worst quarterbacks. So really the worst room that you're going to be going against, in my opinion, is the best way to do this. I think that was the best way to do it last year, and it turned out pretty well if I remember. So, the first one, the second one's going to be funny, but the first one that I am targeting is Baltimore's, and that is not bias. Nick Foles, I believe, will be doing 1, 2, maybe 3 drives. But then behind him, you got Tanner Lee, Gardner Minshew, and
he was kind of good at college.
Alex McGaw. None of these guys are ready. None of these guys have experience. I expect it to be a train wreck and an awesome showout from Baltimore's defense, who's already been so good recently. So that's the first one. And the second one is hilarious because it is completely against what I said for quarterbacks. And that,
wait, can I guess?
Yeah.
It's totally Miami.
It's totally Miami because Matt Schaub also looked like a train wreck. And Miami is an up-and-coming defense. They have honestly have good potential this year, in my opinion. So Matt Schaub coming off the game looking like he did, I would like to play him at quarterback because of volume. But I also like to play Miami because they could pick six him off those terrible throws. So those are the two defenses that I'm thinking about. Baltimore, in my opinion, is going to be in probably 80%. But then Miami could be sprinkled in with a few other ones who you can figure out on your own if you don't like a quarterback room. It sounds really bad. But that's the way that I'm going about this week.
Yeah, I mean, defense is going to come down to a kick return or something like that. Something that's hard to kind of understand and research for. I mean, I like Philly's returners. Miles Sanders is their leading kick returner. He was really good at Penn State. But I don't know that I like going up against, Mariota and then Tannehill. So I don't know if I'm going to try to try to pick a defense where I think they're going to get a kick return. That's just impossible to try to predict. So, yeah, going against the worst quarterbacks is probably the best way to go.
Yeah, it's just the safer play and the possibility of having pick six, fumble six, stuff like that. Yep. So I think that's about all we have for you this week. Just remember to like, subscribe, comment, like I said, for those extra plays. Follow us on Twitter at DraftThunderDFS. And I think that's about it. So we look forward to hearing you. Please give us feedback, and we will see you all next week.
Yeah, hopefully back to our normal format next week. So yeah, just stay tuned to our Twitter. A lot will change in the next 2 days, especially with preseason playing time. Hopefully we find out some things. So yeah, stay tuned to our Twitter. Hit us up with any questions, and yeah, hopefully we're back to our normal format next week.
All right.